Okay, Cancer Rising, in around 18 months, you might understand what this video was actually about. I'm Sook Boy, you're awesome. Let's talk about it. Now, if you're old enough, think back to that period in your life between 2007 and 2008. This was the last time the South Node was in your second house of Leo and your eighth house of Aquarius. Think about the main themes or characteristics that were going on at the time. That narrative, that theme, is weaving its way back into your life. Recently, the nodes shifted back into your second and eighth house. Now, this is very subtle. You probably haven't experienced any kind of change whatsoever yet, but it is significant because over the next 18 months, this is where in the chart, in your chart for Cancer Rising, we'll experience the eclipses. And eclipses are usually symbolic of major beginnings and major endings. So let's nest this in some context. What is Leo and Aquarius all about? Now, Aquarius is pretty complicated. It can represent consciousness, for example. It can represent how the future is organized. It represents the innovational quality of technology and how we interface with technology. But to ground this, it's more like the collective, right? And the ideology behind individualism. So when we look at a culture, it's made up of individuals, and those individuals all contribute in some vast way or some small way to the cultural zeitgeist. So in this analogy, if Aquarius is the collective, Leo would be the king, the leader, the politician, the dictator, someone with some amount of influence. So in a nutshell, Aquarius could be viewed as the culture, and Leo could be viewed as the culture or cult of personality. Next, let's look at the functionality of the nodes when they're in the second and the eighth house. Now, the second and the eighth house is known as the financial axis. As the South Node is now moved into your Leo second house, this is all about your livelihood, what access to resources you have, how you generate your livelihood and your wealth, and your relationship with material possessions. It's also about what you consume and what you put into your body. What are the resources you have at your expense to give yourself fuel to then support the first house? The functionality of the second house is to support your first house. And just a reminder, that first house is literally you. It's your identity. So it's almost like survival coping mechanisms when it comes to giving your body and your identity the resources it needs to survive. And again, as the South Node's moving in there, it's basically creating an audit. It wants to audit anything that hasn't been working for you, anything that is a facade. And it will incinerate any of those coping mechanisms that simply aren't working in your favor anymore, let's say. Now, if we sprinkle some Leo in that second house, that could look something like you being overly proud or egotistically attached to your material wealth. And if that hasn't served you, or if you've been performative in any way about your values and potentially even your self-confidence, if you've been gloating about how much money you make, or you've been making stark comparisons to other people that make a lot of money, the South Node is going to incinerate this concept for you. In other words, just because you have access to resources doesn't mean you're necessarily an influential person. The reverse is true as well. Just because you don't have access to material resources doesn't mean that you're not influential. In a nutshell, if your relationship with money isn't serving you, if it's been holding you back in some way, the South Node is going to audit that element or aspect of your personality. Maybe some of you have been overly generous and you've been giving too much away. And when I say resources, it doesn't have to be money. It could be time, it could be emotional energy, it could be your life force and your vitality. For others, maybe you've been too frugal, and for whatever reason, that's not going to serve you anymore. In modern astrology, people attribute a theme of self-worth to the second house. I think that's a bit naff. I would prefer to call it self-confidence. For lack of a better word, it's all about your independence and your sovereignty, and whether or not you feel respected in that financial independence, for example. Now, the eighth house is more about what you're attached to, who you're dependent on, your shared assets, your relationship with debts, for example, your relationships with the tax man. And it can also mean the people that have become dependent on you. Psychological vampires, emotional vampires, financial vampires, you name it. Now, vampires is a bit of a harsh criticism of the eighth house. It's not necessarily about that. Anything that you share with others where either your choices, financial choices, impact their lives or vice versa. Say, when they make a financial decision, how does that impact you? That's what that eighth house is all about. Now, the North Node, as opposed to the South Node, has a very, very hungry belly. It wants you to move forward in life. It wants momentum. And so it's very thirsty or hungry for whatever's going on in that 8th house. This can look like aggressively paying down debts, aggressively investing in assets. The 8th house is also about intimacy, sexual taboos, sexual liberation. Basically, any of the consequences that arise from the agreements you have with the important relationships in your life. That 7th house is the house of the other, and it represents all the important relationships you have in your life, business, romantic, platonic, or otherwise. When we move into the 8th house, that's about the consequences, the real world consequences of those agreements, contracts, or relationships that you entered into. So therefore, the 8th house is about trust, that I can give some of my independence up and I can bond with another person. And at the end of the day, hopefully I can trust them. Now, the South Node is familiar. It's what you already know. Again, it's your comfort zone. The 8th house is unfamiliar, yet rewarding. The more you build in the 8th house, the more it has a compounding effect and the more you are rewarded with a feeling of satiation and momentum. So think about your self-sufficiency and your capacity to be genuinely independent. The 8th house, on the other hand, is the urge to merge. So what do you generate on your own, and what would be possible if you could generate more income, more assets, if you somehow bonded with another individual's financial situation? In some way, shape, or form, this could potentially be the tension for the next 18 months. Many of you could have assumed that your own self-sufficiency is genuine security in the long run, because again, Aquarius is about the future, remember? Do you have psychological resistance to actually supporting other people financially? Has financial independence become a cornerstone of your identity over the next 18 months? That could be rug pulled. Just saying. Is there some kind of tactic or strategy that would actually make you feel a lot more secure for the long run if you actually had the urge to merge your finances with someone else? Again, romantic, business, platonic, or otherwise, you tell me. Now, funnily enough, Saturn is the ruler of Aquarius. It's in your 10th house of Aries. Saturn also rules your 7th house of Capricorn. This could very much be symbolic of some kind of commitment you make to another person to invest in an asset or launch a business or go into debt together and use that leverage to build something that's bigger than both of you put together. Now, Aquarius is inherently humanitarian, so it might be something to do with giving something back to a community, raising money for a community, helping support them in some way. As a thank you for watching this entire video, please feel free to send me a DM. I'll send you a coupon code for 30 Australian dollars off my natal and birth chart readings. Only love, positive vibes always. Hope that helps. Okay, bye.